I'm Bree Johnson, and I'm here with Scott Riley, and we're here in Northern Ireland on a beautifully sunny day. It's gorgeous, the sun is out, it's September, and it's kind of a surprising lucky break that we got this beautiful sun. So I'm happy about that in Ireland, because I was pretty much expecting rain and gloom this whole time. And I'm talking with Scott because Scott is cool. Scott was recommended to me because he is a Wim Hof certified instructor. Yeah. So he's going to talk to us about what the Wim Hof Method is, and then we're going to go in the ocean. Which luckily it's a sunny day. I kind of woke up this morning going, why did I agree to this? But here we are, and it's going to be good, and he's going to show me the magic, and we're going to have a little fun. We nip into the Irish Sea.
Exactly.
Okay, so Scott, talk to me. Let's have a little introduction about who you are, your journey, how you got started with Wim, and how it's made a difference for you.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully very soon you're going to have a perfect idea of why you've come here today, Bree, to get into the sea, and afterwards you're going to have a really good sense of why. And you know, all you've got to do is come back down here every Sunday and see all the smiling faces in there whenever I'm taking my big group, to realize like why people come and get into the cold. And yeah, I'll go a little bit into my journey apart from all the other smiling faces. Mine is another smiling face to add to the cold water experience. And yeah, I've been a Wim Hof Method certified instructor since November of last year, but it was a long journey to get until that point. The toughest part of the journey probably goes back to June 2014, and at that time I was really unwell and very overweight. I used to suffer from a chronic illness called rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disorder, and yeah, it was a pretty severe case. My knees were very swollen, and going up and down a flight of stairs was sore. Opening a door handle, even, you know, with just the joints in my hand, would have been difficult. Brushing my teeth was sore on my hands. So yeah, I was in a pretty bad place then. I was also very overweight, so 45 kilograms or 7 stone, 100 pounds. You know, that's pretty much all bases covered there for, you know, Canadians and Europeans and British folks. So you get some idea of just how big. And yeah, needless to say, being that overweight and that physically ill and sore, my mental well-being was in a pretty bad state as well. So it would be great if at this point I could say, and then I found the Wim Hof Method, and overnight all magically got better. But yeah, it was a bit of a longer journey than that. It was even a journey in itself to get to things where they were at a point where they were that bad. You know, like that didn't happen overnight either. And I'd been suffering with the condition for about 4 years, and about 2 years into starting to suffer physical symptoms and inflammation in the body, they found one pharmaceutical drug that actually worked really well, which was great at the time. And I took up cycling because that was a type of exercise that was recommended by the doctors as low impact on joints. Did the Maracycle from Belfast to Dublin, which is like 100 and something miles, and things were going really well. And then that medication stopped working. So if I'm being honest, that was probably even harder to take than getting diagnosed sick in the first place, because, you know, whenever I was diagnosed as having rheumatoid arthritis, it was bad because it's a chronic illness and it's not really supposed to get better. But at least then I kind of had the hope that they might find a pharmaceutical drug and I could lead a pretty normal life. But I think then finding a pharmaceutical drug that worked and then it stopped working, it gave me the sense of like, oh, even if they find something that works, you know, it might just be a temporary relief, and I'm not going to get anywhere. So a couple of years that passed after that was just like a complete spiral downwards, and probably the first point in my life where I had the understanding that like everything just seems to run in momentum. Like the diagnosis was bad for my mental health. I was comfort eating terrible food, getting more overweight, which would make the condition worse. I was isolating myself because I was ashamed about being overweight, and you can just see how that snowballs to the point where you're very, very overweight and the condition's very bad, and ultimately hitting that rock bottom point back in June 2014. But rock bottom's a pretty good launch pad as well. So that was the point where I started looking to take my health into my own hands, because I was suffering from this illness, but I guess it's a chronic illness, but it's not terminal. Potentially another 40-50 years to live with this really terrible condition, and so I wanted to do anything and everything I possibly could to then, at least, even if I didn't find anything that worked for me, at least know within myself that I'd tried everything and anything I could possibly do, and to just take a bit more responsibility for it myself than playing victim and just why me. So the first two things that I came up across online were juice fasting and plant medicine treatments in South America. So I booked the trip to Peru, and there was like a 6-month time gap between booking the trip and actually going there. The place that I wanted to go only took a certain amount of people each time, and there was a specific reason why I wanted to go in January as well. There was like a set of ceremonies that they were going to do then that I felt would be really good for the condition I was suffering. So I had the 6-month time gap, and in between booking the trip and actually going there, it was a chance to put some other things into practice that I'd found online that I thought would work really well for me as well, and a chance to clean my body out as much as possible before the trip to Peru. So that's where juice fasting came in, and I'd watched 2 documentaries that were really inspirational. One was called Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, and it's by an Australian guy called Joe Cross, and he had an autoimmune disorder as well, was very overweight, and through going on a 60-day juice fast basically managed to get off his pharmaceutical drugs and lose loads of weight and feel better. So inspired by that. And interestingly, around the exact same time I watched that documentary, another documentary was released called Super Juice Me, and it had a 28-day program you could follow with it. So decided to take the best of both documentaries, do that 28-day plan back to back plus a few days to take it up to 60, and follow the inspiration from the other documentary. So honestly, by the end of it, I was more or less feeling better. I decided to stop the pharmaceutical drugs that I was taking at the time of whenever I started the juice fast, and I mean, they hadn't been working for a couple of years, and they were so strong that I was having to go for a blood test every couple of weeks just for the pharmaceutical drugs I was taking, not even the health disorder. So needless to say, I kind of wanted to get off those, and it was great. The first couple of weeks, understandably, were terrible. I was in withdrawal from sugar, salt, saturated fat, on this basically just drinking fruit and vegetable juices for weeks on end, and ultimately 2 months pretty much. In the 4 months that followed, I continued to do a little bit of movement every day. I've already mentioned that was pretty limited to start with. Up and down a flight of stairs was tough, so it might have been 10 minutes walk at the start, but after maybe a month, I was out walking for like 50 minutes or an hour, which was great. Within 6 weeks, I was back out on my bike, albeit very slowly and not very far. And it just continued on beyond the end of the juice fast by eating really cleanly, and knowing that I'd had that trip to Peru coming up just gave me a lot of inspiration to stick with what I'd started and just eat really simply. So at that time, it was like fish, chicken, vegetables, salad. That was about it. But then after 2 months of just drinking juices, that's pretty good going. So yeah, that was a pretty huge journey in itself. I got out to Peru basically by the time I was going there, feeling better, no pharmaceutical drugs at 6 months at this stage. And it was a chance really there to work on my mindset more than the physical health, which had already more or less been kind of taken care of by the time I was going. And interestingly, like the tribes there have this indigenous belief that whenever you really set the intention to take the medicine, it starts working. And even in the most reductionist, scientific way, like whenever I booked that trip, it gave me the inspiration to take action in the rest of my life, and it really did start working in a sense. So it was brilliant. In Peru, that was the like the most life-changing part of the experience, I think. The two things I really came back from that experience with were what had happened with my health felt like nothing short of a miracle, really. You know, I was told that I was never really going to get better, and here I was at this stage, 6 months, no pharmaceutical drugs, but not suffering any symptoms. So I felt like it was my responsibility not to let that end with myself and try and help other people in whatever way I could. And the other thing that I came away from there was how special it was to spend time around like 20 other like-minded people, like the other people who went to the retreat just wanted the best for themselves, but also each other as well. And I'd never spent time around such a big group of people with that kind of same heart and intention, and I wanted that around me back at home as well. So yeah, I came back home, did a health coaching qualification with the Czech Academy in Europe, Paul Czech's European branch. And it was great. I had a piece of paper saying you're a health coach now, but didn't really know what to do with it, if I'm being honest. And took the next kind of year then just to adjust to having a normal, healthy body again, and just to life not as a very overweight, sick person, which was great. It was tough integrating that and everything from the whole plant medicine experience in Peru. But it was about a year after that I discovered then the Wim Hof Method online. And I saw it as a really practical means to share some of the benefits that I'd had through some pretty extreme leaps, you know, and help other people through that. You know, if someone wanted to improve their health, I wasn't going to have to tell them, first you get a chronic illness, right? And then you fly to Peru and you don't eat for 2 months. Everyone can breathe and take a cold shower or jump in the sea. But not everyone necessarily, and not that everyone needs to go and do all those crazy things. Like, this is just a really practical way to share some health benefits that I got on a pretty crazy journey. So that more or less takes us up to today. I went on the process of becoming a Wim Hof instructor. Did my first, did the 10-week online course. And initially, to be honest, it was purely just for my own benefit. Like, alternative health stuff had a huge impact on my life. So needless to say, I wanted to keep researching into that. And the thing that really inspired me about it was back in 2012, they did a study on Wim where they injected him with an endotoxin, so inflammatory proteins from E. coli, and tricked the body into thinking E. coli is in the bloodstream. And 100% reliably, there should be a response from the body to be like throwing up, high inflammation. But through the breathing technique, he was able to suppress the inflammation. And I just thought this was unbelievable. And they thought it was unbelievable too. Like, they sort of thought that, okay, this is amazing, but he's one-off, complete like freak of nature. He can control his nervous system in that way. And the really inspiring thing about Wim is he says what he can do, anyone can do. So he took a group of 12 people, took them to Poland where I did my final training to become an instructor, got them hiking up and down the mountain in the snow in their underpants basically, and jumping them into the freezing cold Polish rivers and all the fun stuff that I got to do. Took them back to the university, and they did the same study on a control group of people who weren't doing the breathing method, and on the group of Hoffers. And needless to say, in the group of people who, you know, weren't doing the breathing method, they were very unwell and throwing up, and they asked them on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, how are you feeling? And they're all 1, 2, and in the Wim Hof group they're all 10. So they're all feeling awesome. Amazing. So yeah, this was a huge inspiration to me as a means of like something that I could use to control inflammation if it had come back into my body. But that quickly changed from like that prevention mindset to optimization, and my cardiovascular fitness greatly improved, my mental well-being improved, and it was the first time since Peru that I'd found like this big community of cool people that I thought that, you know, I could share some health benefits, but I could also build a cool community around me here at home. And that's really what I've done, literally right here every Sunday with a big group of people that I'm bringing in every week. So that brings us more or less up to date. It's a bit of a long story, but I'm very, very happy to share it with folks. And I think that's other people's stories were important on my journey and give me inspiration to do some good things for myself. So that's part of my responsibility, I feel, as well, just to share my story.
Thank you, Scott. It's a huge story. It's kind of amazing. It's you know, I think we as people, as humans, need to hear more stories like that, because I think typically, if I'm going to make a broad stroke, the medical profession, or it's not uncommon to hear as you heard, you're never going to get better. This is it. You're going to be on this heavy medication with this autoimmune disease for the rest of your life. And that's not how disempowering in that. So to go through that huge journey and to hear, you're just this guy.
Yep.
Nobody's just, but like really, you're the average person, and yet you made that commitment to grow and to try different things, and it's what a testament to that. And I love, and what really strikes me with the Wim Hof Method and that kind of work is the power of our mind, the power of intention, and how it's like, no, I am gonna, okay, it's cold. Let's use the jumping into a cold ocean example, right? It's cold, but I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I know in my own life, I have done that same intention in so many different ways, even from I have a big paranoia about throwing up. That's actually one of my phobias. And as a kid, and I haven't thrown up, knock on wood, in my adult life, like maybe once. Okay. And because I use that same, like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And it goes out the other way, if anything.
Okay.
As you all get to know this. But, for me, so I've used that and I've seen it work for myself on a physiological level. My body wants to do something and I can shift it into something else because of the power of that intention in our mind. And I love that Wim was studied and proven. You're the testament of that. And there's so many other people in the world that are the testament to this. And I also want to touch upon, too, I love that you talk about community. Because as much as our healing journeys are internal, right? Ultimately, we have to be the ones to say yes. And I want to make this change. I want to grow. But do you feel, and what I'm hearing from you, is that it maybe holds steady and holds the sustainability through that community interaction? Do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
I think community is really at the center of everything that I'm doing, to be honest. I spent a long time isolated as well. So in that whole time that I was very unwell, just of my own choosing, really, because I was very ashamed of being sick and overweight. And when you're sore, you don't really want to be around people because you feel grumpy. But it was so transformative to be around, like, amazing other like-minded people and kind of find your tribe. It sounds cliched, but it's so true. If you can find like-minded others to be around, and that can be as transformative as anything. And especially in those moments where maybe you don't even necessarily believe in yourself, but you can borrow belief from other people.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that is huge for me. And that was a huge part of my business journey, starting up Causeway Living, my health coaching company. Like I said before, I had this piece of paper, didn't really know what to do with it. And it was guys that I'd met through the Wim Hof Method, some of the other instructors and some other people associated with that were like, just put your qualification up online, just tell your story, and there's some value in that. And even if I didn't necessarily believe in myself that much at that stage, they definitely did. And that gave me a lot of inspiration because they were doing really well in that chosen field. And if they believed in me and just were saying go for it, then I was able to borrow that from them. And I think that can be a huge part of community, and it can inspire you to do a lot more than you believe possible within yourself. And then that's where that responsibility to pay it back almost comes. I think that, somebody's going to do that for me at some stage, but then I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to show dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of people that they can do more than they believe as well. And people have said that to me as well, especially in the workshops that I do with the ice bath. And, they felt unsure about coming into the day, but the fact that I was so assured and confident in them, and it was so matter of fact, okay, you just do this, and they went along with it, and they were able to borrow that belief and see that it was completely possible and come through something scary with a huge sense of achievement. So definitely that's 100% at the center of everything that I'm doing health coaching wise. Is you got to look after yourself, but if you can find like-minded people to look after yourself with, it's huge in terms of accountability and sticking with it and belief and support to go on and do more than you necessarily ever believed possible.
I think that's a great part of it, is that I love that you say borrowing belief from others. And I love that you also say, and it's also you feel this responsibility to share as well. And I think this is where that beautiful synergy and magic can arise, is, not forgetting that we are all intricately connected to each other, and that we become who we are through each other, and that all of us have our own journeys and suffering and pain and joy and happiness. And when we can share that and recognize that we're not alone, that we have that ability to like, really what I'm getting so much from this is just to continue to think way beyond our own minds. It's like the thought came into my mind where, as you're talking, where it was like, the sky's the limit. And then I realized, no, our mind is the limit, and moving past the mind and the preconceived notions of what we can and can't do, then it becomes amazing and magical. And you're a testament to that. So that's beautiful. And I'm honored for you to share that story. And I'm really glad and happy that you've decided to share the story with more people, because it really, truly does help everybody else.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Thank you, Scott. And so now, if people in the Northern Ireland, if they're visiting in Northern Ireland, if they live here, where would they find you?
If folks visit causewayliving.com, or basically any social media platform under Causeway Living, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just at Causeway Living, and you can find like I mentioned, I do workshops teaching the full Wim Hof Method, so that's breathing. I've got an ice bath and doing that in studio spaces, which is good fun. Also do Wim Hof Method workshops in the Mourne Mountains as well, which is great fun. Instead of the ice bath, there's a nice freezing cold rock pool to jump into as well. And I also do a free event right here every Sunday in Bangor, where we go for a 30-minute jog, everyone at their own pace, so just 15 minutes out and back, or walk if folks want to, and get into the sea and do a little bit of breathing with that as well. So hope to see lots of folks, local and abroad, who are visiting to come visit. And thanks again, Brie, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, and now the fun part. So Scott's going to show me some of the Wim Hof breathing methods, and then we're going into the ocean.
We are.
It'll be good. It'll be good. Mind over matter. It will be fun. And so I'm happy to do this for all of you. I'm not even doing this, as we talk about community, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for all of you watching this, so is what I'm telling myself. Okay, so we're going to go set up in another location, do some breathing, and then you're going to see us go into the ocean.
Thanks again, Brie.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Wim Hof Method breathing practice. First, we're going to warm up the breathing apparatus a little bit. So, first of all, I'm going to ask you to place your hands at the bottom of your rib cage for me, at the side. Very good. And we're going to just take some nice, slow, big, deep breaths together to start with. So in through the nose and back out through the mouth. Very good. And again. And let it go. One more. And let it go. What's happening, I believe the biggest health benefit of it comes to what it's all doing to the nervous system. And it's like a two-way street, the nervous system, with the breath and what's going on with your state. And whenever people are in the fight or flight or sympathetic nervous system, breathing escalates and picks up. But it can work both ways. So whenever we're doing those 30 to 40 breaths, we're actually loading up a little bit of stress into the system. And then by ending that, you're making the switch over to parasympathetic or rest and digest. So you're loading up a weight of stress and then pulling your body out of it. That breath hold eventually then turns into a stress because you need the air again. And you make the switch back over to sympathetic nervous system. And then the recovery breath, big deep breath in for 10 to 15 seconds, pulls you out again, and it's a nice restful rest and digest parasympathetic state. Then you go straight back into the 30 to 40 breaths. So it's like weight training for the nervous system. Load up a stress, pull yourself out of it. That turns into a stress, you pull yourself out of it, and then do it on repeat, so that basically your vagal tone strengthens in time through repeatedly pulling yourself out of a slightly escalated stress state. And we'll be doing something similar with the cold as well.